One of my favorite guests on this show joins us right now, the former CKE restaurant CEO, Andy Puzder. He's got a great new book out, The Capitalist Comeback, The Trump Boom and the Left's Plot to Stop It. I could extend it, Andy, and very good to have you. With some on the right who are concerned that the administration and its tit for tat with the Chinese is not capitalism and not right, you say?
Well, first of all, I want to point out that I was one of the first 2 or 3 guests on your Fox Business show that first day when there were like 17 channels that had it in the country.
And half of them were your family.
And
that's right. I really appreciate it.
I had to drive to L.A. from Santa Barbara to do it, too. So it was.
Okay.
But
you were driving from the back seat and pointing out the directions.
I wish.
But seriously, I thank you for that. And but you look at this now and the back and forth, the controversy over this president and all that. But now, even for many in his own party who get nervous when they hear trade wars.
Okay, so let's look at the trade issue. There's a difference between using tariffs as a tool to try and get better trade deals than to use tariffs as a means to protect industries that are going to fail in your country. This is what this president's doing. Is he's not trying to set up a trade war. He's trying to improve our trade agreements with other countries, and really China, Europe. Why would they come to the table, given the relationship over the last 30 years, if he didn't take a strong position? You always do that in negotiation. You take your strongest position right out of the box.
But you're Mr. Free capitalist, right? I mean, the fear seems to be that whatever his intentions, and they're worthy, he's brought to everyone's attention, how rigged the system can be. But he could be sending us down a very different path, right?
I think unfair trade isn't necessarily free trade. I think we shouldn't associate bad trade deals that we try and walk away from walking away from free trade.
Well, were you surprised that Avengers economic team that we had in China went home empty-handed?
Not at all. I was more surprised.
A little bit?
No, not at all. Look, first of all, we sent the A-team over there.
They should have sent you.
I wish that we sent the A-team over there to show respect.
The A-team didn't bring back not a zip.
Well, the point was to show respect for China. We went there. We sent the A-team there. You have to save face when you deal with the Chinese.
I know, but people thought they would get something. In fact, the Chinese dug in their position.
I didn't think that we'd get it. I was surprised we so quickly negotiated a deal with South Korea. I think that obviously has been influenced by North Korea. I think when you never, even in a business negotiation that was like $100 billion, much smaller than this deal, you would never get a deal in the first meeting. I think that was an unreasonable expectation.
All right. Now, I respect your business mind. I mean, so I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt on a lot of things you say in this fine book. Well, one of them is this notion that, capitalism is bad. I mean, just we're letting our native juices flow and all of a sudden, and that's great. But is the president really a capitalist and, an undeterred capitalist? Because many times in his business times, he certainly exercised the bankruptcy law. And as president, he has torn up a lot of trade agreements, which might be perfectly valid ones to rip up. But a lot of free capitalists are saying, wait a minute, are you either for trade, against trade? Are you for untethered businesses, against untethered business? You send us mixed signals, Mr. President. You say what?
I say we've gone from an era where we had a president who for 8 years implemented very left-wing progressive socialist programs that were very discouraging to business. We now have a president who's cutting taxes, who's reducing regulation, who's focusing on American energy. And we're seeing business optimism hit highs it hasn't hit, ever. In the 45 years of the NFIB survey or manufacturing at 93%. And the reason for that is because we're talking about free market. Now, I'm not saying he's a perfect capitalist that, he's going to go out and write the wealth of nations or something. But he is taking the country back towards his instinctive base.
And by cutting regulations, which you could make an argument, certainly back in your fast food days, where that's integral. That's so
it's
key.
Huge. Bigger than cutting taxes.
I agree, and the numbers bear you out on that. Now, along comes Marco Rubio last week, I think, to criticize the tax cut, saying that it hasn't benefited as much for individuals. What did you think of that?
I think Marco isn't really looking at it as in-depth as he normally looks at things.
Well, remember, he was a big fan of the credits, wanted more credits.
Well, there's nothing right, and it's almost, it sounds a little like what the Democrats or progressives argue, which is when they talk about having an economic policy, the economic policy is we want people to pay more taxes so we can give you more things. Yeah. And this is kind of a give you more things. What happens with these tax cuts, even with share repurchases, when there are share share repurchases, at a minimum, somebody's paying 23.8% capital gains tax. And then you've probably got 25% of the equities in this country owned by pension funds. Then you have people invest in IRAs and other forms of retirement.
How many do you think
I mean,
that
it's
is?
a huge
The conventional
percentage.
wisdom is half the American people.
Well, then half the American people benefit when there's a share repurchase program. I mean, that's
And by the way, we're seeing states now getting unexpected revenue surpluses.
and there's additional benefits. So you're talking not only
Then
the
you
peripheral,
surprised
but
Republicans
direct.
aren't doing better polling-wise, and that could change, and that was wrong, and you were way ahead of the curve in the 2016 election saying, I don't buy these polls, Neil, and you were right. But that there's a blue wave coming.
Well, look, there could be a blue wave coming. You're in midterm elections, you often see this. But I'm confident that despite what they're being told by the media and despite what they may be telling to the pollsters, the American people know they're better off. I mean, you can only hear so many Stormy Daniels stories before you say enough is enough. You know, people,
But does
you
the
listen to
president
these
hurt
economic
himself
issues.
on these issues, Andy, by talking so much about the Stormy Daniels thing, by saying no payments were made from this White House or this Mike campaign or the greater Trump period to the lawyer who paid her off, when in fact there were?
I think there are times when he'd be better off not saying certain things, but I think his ability to communicate directly with the American people at 3 o'clock in the morning, if he wants to, gives him such an edge over prior presidents.
But it negates all the
press
other great
conference or go
stuff
on
you
TV.
say he's doing, right?
Well, but I'd say the majority of his tweets do get to the heart of the. He's got a sense for getting to the heart of what Americans are
They're
thinking.
almost all on Mueller and the witch hunt, which might be perfectly reflective of his frustration, but.
Well, it reflects his frustration and also the bloom kind of coming off the rose on this invest. And I'm a supporter of Mueller. I think he'll do a good job. But
so you don't think he should fire the guy?
No, not at all. But when you hear what this federal judge says, or you hear what happened to Mike Flynn, who's a very patriotic American who served this country, you start to wonder and you see who's on his staff. It does make you wonder.
It is a meat grinder, though, for the White House itself. I mean, you took yourself out of the running, the labor secretary, but I was thinking of you with Gina Haspel, CIA pick, who apparently has repeatedly, I don't want this, I don't want to deal with this, I don't want to drag you through the mud. It is whatever you think of her, whatever you think of the picks, whatever, it's a tough process.
I think Dr. Admiral Jackson is probably the best example. What a decent human being that everybody thought was a wonderful guy. And then Tester just destroys him. The press picks up on it.
Montana senator, he was up for the VA job and goes on. But a lot of people look at that meat grinder and say, not me.
Well, we need to not do that. People need to serve.
If asked, would you try it again?
The president asks you to serve, you serve. No, he hasn't asked me.
What about elective office, running for elective office?
No, I would not run for office. I'm not. I think that's a lot of fundraising and a lot of glad handing, and I would love to be involved in policy.
You could finance your own campaign, right?
I think
sold a lot of burgers.
You are exaggerating the extent of my success.
Well, I am not exaggerating the success of this book. Capitalists Come Back, the Trump Boom, and the Let's Stop It. It's a very honest step back from all of this portrayal of something that's going on beneath the surface. Sometimes it gets lost in tweets and nasty little, jibes on the left and the right. But it does step back like it's saying capitalism has a chance, and unfettered, sometimes it can do a lot of good if you give it that chance. We'll have more.
And you read the book.
I did read the book.
I know
It does inspire me. Although there's no reference to me in the book, but that's a whole separate thing. Yeah, maybe in the next book. All right.